All right. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Mastercraft. We are back with another mission video talking all about Purge the Foe. We are killing each other and trying to hold more primary while we do it. Phil, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, it is one of my most hated missions. It is very swingy. It has one of the strongest benefits for going second, which we'll talk about here in a second. And it is also one of those things where your army list can dictate probably the strongest how you're going to play this game. Because you're going to play it one way or another. There is very little middle ground here, unless you want to leave it up to chance, which I'm not a huge fan of. Yeah, this is a difficult mission for a lot of people. It is very often one of the missions that's included in a lot of player packets for a lot of tournaments. A lot of TOs do like this for some reason, but it is different than all your traditional primary take and hold missions and stuff like that. So Lane, tell me, what is it about Purge the Foe that puts everyone in kind of a very, very defensive, angry position about a mission?
So yeah, there's a couple. You touched on it earlier, right? The biggest thing is there is such a huge advantage to going second. You have the data, right? How many did my opponent kill? I now know the number I need to beat. If you're going first, you're trying to really just guess and kind of calculate, okay, I think I can kind of kill this many, but how many of my own are going to get killed in return? Can I maybe pick up a unit on their turn? It's very, very hard to do that last part and really, really plan for it because there is some interaction in your opponent's turn, but for the most part, unless you're just like melee swarming them and you made contact with your whole army and you're just piling into things, it's going to be very, very difficult to get extra kills outside of your turn. So the player going second just gets to go, oh, well, you killed 3. All right, I can just set up my game plan to do just enough to do that so I don't overexpose more for your next turn, right? And that can be the very, very difficult part of Purge the Foe because you as a going first player are working with much less information.
Yeah, it's difficult because you're right. Absolutely. That's probably the biggest part of going second is you know the number that your opponent killed, and then they can tie you or beat you on their turn. So, unless you put your opponent in a position where they only have so many activations and only can kill so many units, they're going to be a position where they are always can threaten and kill more. So that must mean hold more is super easy for the person going first, right, Lane?
I mean, I generally try to get it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, that's how I'm going to force the game is to say, if you don't kill me, I am going to get hold more. Generally, though, it does not happen. Most people are just like, well, as long as we deny the middle, we each hold 2, right? It's only if you can really work on some multiple levels of, I've definitely secured my own natural and I can definitely deny your natural, then you can kind of maybe in normal games get to this point, or at least even material games, you can get to the point where maybe hold more is an option. Generally, you're not going to see hold more until probably bottom of 5, right? That player has the advantage. They probably are going to get an extra 4 points, just another advantage they have. And then also just material is going away, right? Either player can still get hold more depending on the state of the game and how it's going, but it's just going to definitely you're going to have resources generally to go deny in kind of an even material game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a layout pulled up here on rapidingress.com. It's a cool, fun tool that I found on Reddit. Shout out to the individual who made this. I have the link down below in the YouTube channel. So if you want to use something like this, it's a great tool for just visualization. I will add, he just added WTC and UKTC. So, yeah, a little bit of value there, which I really like because some of those maps are different if you've never played on them before. But okay, let's talk about some of the game plans you need to put in the back of your head of what Lane has already hinted to of how to play Purge the Foe correctly. Let's say you're going first. Let's say you have a army with enough units that's beyond 9, because my custodies aren't doing this early turns, where I'm putting units out on objectives early to force my opponent to come and trade. So if I'm going first, and let's say hypothetically on this awful open layout, this is very, very open, I run a unit all the way out, right? I have just one guy touching the objective. Great. And then I do the same thing over here. Well, put him behind the wall, maybe an inch off because I'm a good 40k player, and I just look to screen you out. This isn't a great spot to be, I'll be honest, right? Because the wall usually, the majority amount of terrain doesn't go all the way to this end. So there is very easy ways to get shot on this objective. Maybe I put myself all the way back if I'm facing some kind of a combat army that has a good trading piece. But then now I'm at risk of just getting out OC'd. Does this objective actually matter in the grand scheme of things? No, but in terms of a pressure game plan, it does. So if I'm going first and I manage to maybe put units on all three objectives, right? I string one out here, I have another one here, or maybe they stay all the way behind to prevent any shooting angles here. But let's say I do all three of those things, and that's my opportunity going first, and I force my opponent to either give me hold more or come out to try to take me off all three objectives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really the way I tend to play. I even lean into this sometimes if I am a bottom of turn player, depending on the matchup. If the matchup is so horrible that me picking up units is just always going to be like I just have more units. They're just going to be killing more than I can. Right. I need to be doing this even if I go second. But from the scope of going first, right? The entire point is to make your opponent come out and deal with you as fast as possible, right? You need to progress the game to a state that normally you're trying to look for in round 4, right? You're round 4, we've all traded all of our trash. We're just down to our hammer units, right? Like as a guard player, that's my entire goal in Purge the Foe is I know if I'm going first, top of turn, you do not get kill more, right? If you have bottom of turn, I will happily throw 6 units at you and give them all up turn 1, as long as I'm putting them in annoying positions that you'll have to expose to deal with. And it's going to be, hopefully on these objectives, right? You have to deal with them, or I'm going to score hold more, right? I'm at least gaining back that advantage of, sure, you might get kill more in the coming turn. I'm going to get hold more top of 2, right? And by doing that and being aggressive, right? Like I'm gonna try to just like Phil was saying, I don't have to stand on points. I'm not just holding primary, I'm taking space, right? Because if primary doesn't matter, board control matters as well, right? Because we are fighting for the best positions to take these fights in that are going to give us the advantage of, they now have to step into a worse position to deal with my unit, right? That's going to expose them. That's going to hopefully lead to me getting another kill in the next round, right? So board control is just even more important in Purge the Foe than primary a lot of times, because if you know you're not going to get hold more, quote unquote, you should still be trying to force it, toe one when you can and stuff, but you just need to threaten, right? Even just if I can get a unit that is all the way across against a melee army that's kind of just sitting there right outside their deployment zone, and I've just jailed them for a turn, like if I can get the threat of having something to put there and then something on the objective that they just all like they don't have the ability to shoot me off, right? I'm just taking the board position that is putting me in a winning spot in the trade game, right? And that's what I really try to cultivate in those matchups, where I'm just playing against an army that definitely has less pieces than me. There have been multiple games where I sent forward 2 scout sentinels. I sent forward my rattlings. I advanced my Bulgrin and got them onto their natural turn 1 because I was just, this game is starting now and you have to kill all of my shit as fast as you can, or you'll never touch primary out in the midboard and stop me from holding your natural and my own. And you're just going to you're going to lose all your trash to start with too. And we're just down to the trade game. And it is risky like this, but I don't like, what else are you going to do, right, Phil? Are you going to just sit back and say, I mean, you can try for it. You can just hope your opponent trips up, and gives you a couple more units than they should. But like at a certain point, unless you're forcing the issue as the top of turn player who has more units, you're just like, it's going to be so hard for you to actually ever outscore them on the kill more, right? Give up your
Yeah.
units, make that game snowball and get to that point early.
Yeah. It 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 may take some trial and error for those that are playing this for the first time, like what matchups we do this into and what matchups we don't. So, for example, Lane playing into an army like Death Watch, right? Like, yeah, you probably shove every objective, right? Like that's a relatively elite army, not a lot of tools. Same with Custodes. Same with probably like Thousand Suns gets a little more interesting in terms of your guard and T Suns. Like they do have a few more units, but still probably high value enough that you want to pull them out and put them in positions where you can actually punish them for it. Um, the ones that are tough are obviously more Hordish armies. If you were into the Mirror, if you were into the Cult, if you were into maybe even like Death Guard, right? If they're running a lot of 5 mans and stuff like that, it gets more and more difficult because Lane already talked about it. If he's positioned his starting unit right here, or even behind the train, like his bull grid, and then moves them and advance them and gets on the objective, that's great. That's awesome. But obviously, you don't know that going into your first turn, and going into your deployment. So the one thing I would think about, just put in the back of your head, is like you need to be staged to do it. So on a layout like layout 4, right? It's a little bit harder. We could be back here. This is a Crucible battle deployment. So this bottom deployment area doesn't necessarily always have the most amount of units, but there will be something here. So we just got to make sure that even if we don't go first, we're not going to get punished for putting things out here early. Maybe this is your scout unit, right? Maybe this is just a unit that has good mobility. Maybe it has a 12-inch base move because it's JPI or something like that. And we can get on this objective and we can say, hey, come fight me or else. There's different ways to hold our natural. This could be a reactive unit. This could be a unit that has, a reactive once they get within 9, and maybe I could put more OC onto an objective versus less. But like, especially on a layout like layout 4, it is very, very hard to hold some of these objectives. So let's break down just for those to conceptualize Purge the Foe. There's some really important things that you need to know. Lane has already said it multiple times. You only get points if you don't hold more for one objective. So like if I just hold my home, I will always get my 4. That means going out could take less risk than, trying to push down my opponent by doing something like this. So, a lot of the times, even with my cult, I've done it a few times, especially into more hordy matchups where I'm like, hey, I actually just want this to be a draw. But I want you to expose first. Maybe I don't push out units at all. Maybe I just say, hey, I'm going to control my home. I'm very good at denying. You put out anything. I'm going to use a one singular unit and try to be as hyper efficient as possible to punish whatever you put out in your natural, and I'll deny the middle, and I'll just say, okay, I'm going to give you Holt kill more potentially because maybe it's bikes or maybe it's sprints or something like that. I'm going to give you the opportunity to kill more, but I'm going to keep denying, and I'm going to make sure that you never get hold more. I can't allow that to happen. It's probably the one thing that I would say every army should be trying to do. Every army should not be giving up kill more if they can. Uh, I'm sorry. Every army shouldn't be giving up hold more if they can, because it is that easy to deny in some of these layouts. You could give up kill more and you could try to get hold more on the backside. That's a tactic for a lot of armies. Lane just talked about it. Like he's okay with giving up kill more turns 2, 3, and 4, as long as he's threatening hold more. Is denying your opponent their 4 primary for their home reasonable? No. Like it's just, unless they give you the opportunity, unless you have like an incredibly fast army that allows you to get on your opponent's home. Are you ever going to realistically deny your opponent's home? No. So then that means, just in terms of the general scheme of things, in terms of going into turn 5, if you're the player going first, there's some things you need to put in your head. Your opponent will probably get hold more, which means they are going to get 8 points minimum on primary for hold 1, hold more. The second thing is, are they going to get kill more? Not not guaranteed, but it's likely, but let's not include it. But let's say they'll get kill 1. They're gonna kill 1 unit, so another 4 for that. So you should expect your opponent final turn to get 12 primary, almost guaranteed, not counting the secondaries, not counting the additional 4 kill more. Do you have a 12-point lead? Plus, like 15 to be safe? Like that doesn't even make me feel good, but like I would need at least 15 to be like, hey, I stand a chance of winning this game. Realistically, you probably need in the 18 range. Like you need to be 18 points ahead, and your opponent needs to not get kill more because they could very easily do that. And then put you in a position where like you just can't win the game. But we've talked about that before in all of these missions, right? Like in Terraform, in Scorched, in Taken Hold, it's like, hey, what's your advantage going into turn 5? The player going first, you have to find the advantage. If it's like Lane is talking about, of flooding objectives and forcing hold more, or forcing your opponent to expose too much, and then the trade game eventually burns your opponent out to the point that they can't get hold more at the bottom of 5, right? Like, that would be fantastic. If you kill enough units, they can't get hold more bottom of 5, fantastic. You've done your job. That means you only need a 8-point lead because they'll get hold 1, kill 1, right? Those are all possibilities. But if you don't control the tempo of the game, and we have a video on tempo that I'd strongly recommend you watching, because if there's anywhere it's so obvious, it's in Purge the Foe. Like, Purge the Foe literally rewards you for the different type of tempo games that you play. You play aggressive tempo like Lane is talking about? Great. This should be what you're looking for as an end result. Your opponent has no units left. They can't get hold more on 5. They're fighting you off every objective turns 1 through 4. Hopefully, you get hold more at least once.
Yeah, that is the goal. The only other goal I usually have is I just hope that you only have 1 or 2 units left by the end of the game, right? Like, I'm getting hold more, and I might be getting killed more by the end, but that's because that is what my guard list is designed to do. Guard is generally built as like a primary army. I actually would like say that my army is legitimately meant to just be a hard trading army. I've got the trash, I've got the OC, but at the end of the day, 12 Bulgrin, 3 Dorns, and another Lehman Russ, like, that is very hard to chew through, and it can pick up a ton of shit in a turn. So I need to get to the point in the game where that's what they're allowed to do as early as possible without giving up more units. The other thing too, right? People are always so worried about, like, oh, I'm going to leave 1 unit out, that's going to give them kill 1 on turn 1, right? And in certain matchups, you definitely want to have that concern, right? You want to be like, oh, well, I don't want to just give you 1 for free. Correct. You don't want to give someone for free. But if you have a unit of like Deathwing Knights or like my Bulgrin, if I know what you have that's going to shoot at them is probably not going to kill them, right? And it's a tank or something that actually has anti-tank damage that's going to be able to kill my end game pieces, I will just leave my Bulgrin hanging. Come peek me, for the love of God. This is Purge the Foe. I just want you to trade with me. Try it, please. I beg of you. As long as I'm doing it in a spot where I know A, the line of sight you're going to be taking to shoot at them, and B, I know that I can put the required resources into place to be able to trade that back immediately, right? Like, I'm happy with that. I will leave them out in the open. I want to get the game going. That's the entire premise of this like mission for me. Is I know that the faster the game gets going, the faster I can get your units out, the better my end game is likely going to be. Whereas if I were to just be playing a slow kind of tradey game where I let them control the tempo, it's not as good. I need to force the issue. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into list construction, right? We're talking about that middle objective, having a lone op that you can throw away that just goes and stands there, right? You can threaten hold more without even having to put another thing on their natural potentially, right? Maybe you don't have quite that much trash, you don't have quite that much scout, that much speed to go be on all 3, but you have a lone op you can just kind of cheekily put on the middle that they really are going to have to put something out in the open to deal with, right? And then also hold your natural, right? There's multiple ways to kind of force this issue depending on just how varied the matchup is. And I think it's definitely difficult to identify as you start looking into it. But the more you're like, how can I force the trade game, and you really analyze the matchup through that lens, the better you'll end up doing as a player who has the extra units, who really is quote unquote disadvantaged in that scenario, and find ways to work to make it as much of an advantage as you can, really, because at the end of the day, it's still you still are disadvantaged. It's only through your gameplay and your game plan that you can make it a game where you do stand a chance to win.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So we'll end with this because I think there's a lot of really valuable things to talk about. If you see Percival in the player packet, there's some things you need to put in the back of your head in terms of how you're gonna make it. One, the layout matters. So like GW4, super open layout can be kind of devastating for some armies. And is a little bit harder for Purge, but let's take a layout like layout 1, right? This can be devastating. If this is the Bulgrin or the Deathwing Knight or the Terminator, whatever the case, super durable unit, and they're just poked out like this, and they're on there. Okay, well, you kill this one model, um, fantastic, but you don't kill the unit because the rest of the unit is behind the terrain, and that's all they've done to push you off this objective. That really, like, that sucks. let's say this is a guardsman, and this is a 10-man with take cover. Let's say it's in Grizzle, and you get the +1 for AOC. And you just put a unit out here, and you don't kill the full unit. You can't kill the remainder because they're 2 inches off the wall and they're, bubbled out, and then they just regen back onto the objective and get hold more. I can't tell you the number of times that you will get put in a position where it's like, hey, if you don't kill this unit, you better have enough OC on that objective, or else I'm going to flip it because they can regen, because they can +1 OC. Like it can be very, very difficult on some of these layouts to actually get hold more, or some armies have the capabilities where they could very easily hold more, unless you have to put out like significant assets to stop them, which is, as Lane was talking about, kind of the goal for a lot of these armies. I need you to expose an uncharacteristic amount. I need you to trade down as much as possible to prevent me from scoring a hold more, and then hopefully in later turns that allows me to get kill more back because I've picked up enough of your trash, I've picked up enough of your trade pieces that we're on a hammer unit seat now, and you only have so many activations and you can't kill enough to get back up, and I will get kill more. Incredibly difficult, but you need to put that in the back of your head. Do you have stealth? Do you have loner? Do you have scout? Do you have a reactive move, right? If you have those things and they're not in your list and you see Purge the Foe, like maybe you need to think about that. Or for me, a lot of the times, there's some armies that I just won't take, right? If I know Purge the Foe is like rounds 4, 5, or 6, like I know the guys I'm going into that I'm going to be playing those final rounds. So it's like, oh, if I'm playing Ben Neal round 5 with GSC, Purge the Foe to Space Marines, his two obnoxious, Space Marine list of Vindicators and Victrix and or Deathwing Knights and the Alliance, like, well, actually, he's got no trade pieces, and every piece he has is so freaking durable. I will never get Killmore. It will not happen. I cannot afford to play GSC into this because I will just lose. Because even if I flood the objectives, it doesn't matter. Like I cannot kill those things efficiently enough, um, versus some of my other armies that can. So yeah, every single one of those is different, but you need to learn how to play Purge because it is so common.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one of the other really good points you brought up with the example on the middle too. I just want to really dive deep and let's talk the analysis on the decision making here, right? Let you string the one Bulgrin out onto the center, right? You're going to look and say how many resources did they expose to try to deal with this unit, right? When you're like, "Oh yeah, my goal is you're not lying. You would love to hold more." Right? But if they expose 3 things that actually all combined could kill the whole unit of Bulgrin, you go, okay, cool. Well, I just take the front one now. And you only get to activate one of those things, but you expose 3 units to deny me the ability to stand there continuously, right? Like you got your value, right? Same with the guardsman. It doesn't matter. You let one activate, you pull yourself off the objective, especially if you're running Kriegsmen who have a med pack, like Phil was saying. You can regen back on, right? The value is in the exposure of pieces, right? You make them come closer. You force the trades. And if you didn't actually lose the unit to do so, that's amazing. Stop staying on the objective. Stop pulling from cover, right? Just accept your losses, move on and stay hidden, right? If that's what's actually going to win you, the game, like and this will still come up in other missions and stuff, but generally since primary is so valuable, you're like, well, I have a kind of tanky unit. We got to see if I live, right? And that can be valid. But in Purge, they already exposed the unit. Let them stand in the open and shoot at nothing. That's just fine. Let them do it. That was the whole point. So that's just one of the other major things that I think I see a lot of players like, oh, like I could get hold more. And it's like, or you could have just had a resource that stayed alive completely in a Purge the Foe mission, and you got to use it again to force them to do basically the same thing a turn later.
So you could use Bingo Sub. You could tell where they're going to stand. Like there's only like this side of the board realistically where your opponent could shoot from, unless they are exposing themselves inside these pieces of terrain. So like if they expose here, if they expose on the top side, you're like, great. Am I in a position to punish both of these? Do I have my anti tank either here in the corner that allows them to flip, or is it, am I positioned here to be able to peek out and punish down, or am I behind this L where I can just poke out here and then draw a line of sight, right? To potentially both. And those are the things you have to think about, right? It's a game of chess, and that's why I love 40k so much. A lot of the trading patterns and stuff like that do remind me of chess. But it's like, okay, I push this unit out here, and then I have 2 units positioned to trade with whatever comes out. If I know, the unit that's back here, which I should, I know the unit that's back here is that capable of killing my scout squad or my Cadians or my flayed ones or whatever it is that you push out onto that objective. Can they do it? No? Well, they either have to put something out, or I'm taking the option of, hey, I'm just going to leave it on the objective, right? Like, I know that I can't kill whatever unit I pushed out. Great. You've just given me primary because you're so afraid of giving me kill more. Um, or you're afraid of not exposing too much. So now you've taken a risk of exposing only one thing to kill my one thing that's on the objective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I do think the only other thing I really want to touch on, right? We'll say we're playing, it's your Death Watch, my guard. We're on Purge the Foe. I am just trying to take up the entire board, right? Where I'm trying to use these techniques where it's like I'm forcing hold more. I'm gonna try to make you drop those Indomitor bricks in places you don't really want them to be in the long run, right? How are you approaching this game as the person who does have the advantage on being able to kill a lot of units, at least early on in that matchup, right? You can clear my chaff very, very easily. But like, how are you looking at this mission as somebody who, quote unquote, should have the advantage, but is being pressured in these ways?
Yeah. So it's selective trading. So I'm looking to pressure um not only the objective that's in front of me, but I need to punish what's behind me. Um, I'll probably use split fire quite a bit, especially those Indomitor bricks. They're so nasty that it's like I could split fire with them. And then honestly, I need certain tools. One of them is indirect. Like my Fortis bricks in the Purge the Foe matchup, I list build for Purge. If I see it, I'm more likely to take the Fortis bricks because I know one of the things I'm going to struggle with is armies like this. If they try to shove on me, it's like, no, 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 I need to pick up not only the unit that's on the objective, I also need to punish the thing that's coming next. So if that's another squad of guardsmen or, ratlings or a scout sentinel, whatever the case is, doesn't matter. Like I have to kill the thing that comes next. Not only that, but the thing that's on the objective. There's certain units that I'm always taking, right? Deathwatch Terminators are great. They're fantastic. They reroll charges. They have cycle missile launchers. They're hyper efficient. All those things. I can't express how important the combi weapon lieutenant is because he can do the same thing. He has stealth. He has lone op. He has a reactive. So him going onto a middle objective is so very valuable. Um, and like he's got a couple of attacks. He'll go do some damage. He won't do damage to Bulgrim, but he'll kill a couple guardsmen. So there is value there. But I am so hyper vigilant towards OC that it's like, okay, let's say in this scenario, I want to deny lanes holding more. Obviously, like the priority number one is kill whatever is on this objective, right? I'm putting units out, whether it's Deathwatch Terminators or it's the Fortis bricks that are cutting this angle, right? I have to kill what's on this objective, and that's super important. Realistically, all I need to do is focus on denying the middle. Like, if I don't kill that unit, fine. All I need to focus on is denying the middle. I actually don't care about my opponent's natural. If I try to expose too much to try to pick up all 3 units on all 3 objectives, I am just playing into my opponent's hand of like trying to expose too many things. Because obviously, this angle that we're placing here is pretty important. It's pretty shit, right? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to put a unit like inside this 2 inch
Please.
and shoot down and then give Lane, who I know for a fact will have a Dorn just sitting right here? Like that's that's awful. That's really bad. I would never do that. I would never put myself in a position where I'm trying to peel off all 3 objectives. Um, Maybe I'm putting indirect here, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because I said in the beginning, Persif only gives you points for holding one or holding more. So if I deny the middle and control my home, fine. And actually, at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking to do every turn. If I deny the middle, hold my own, fine. Lane gets 4, I get 4. I will. My focus as the elite player in this matchup is to make sure my opponent never gets hold more, and I never give up too many assets. Um, to try to deny that hold more. So if I'm just putting guys out and just saying, hey, like that's fine. I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna make sure you can't out OC me. I'm gonna make sure I deny the middle. I don't necessarily pick up the unit, but I am gonna solidify my natural to make sure that I'm never in a position where you could do it again. Right? I'm focused a lot on screening. I'm putting units further out, possibly, to say, hey, now you can't just rush my objective with models. I'm gonna make sure I punish things further. Maybe that's Deathwatch Terminators. Maybe that's like a Fortis brick later in the game. But I need to make sure that I don't give my opponent a position where they could just walk onto my natural.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's totally fair. And the same thing too, right? With his Terminators, right? If he's forcing the issue, trying to get the board space and take the board presence, because it is very important as a Death Watch player to make sure you can get those drops in those protected safe areas that you want to be in, to take, very specific lines of sight that are very hard for your opponent to, shoot back into. Right. It is important to still take that space, and I think that's another very important trick. The other important thing too, right? We're talking about trying to fight over objectives here, right? Like, let's make sure we're setting up for a good heroics, right? In certain matchups where it's like, well, I can still, like, that's how you're gonna maybe get that extra OC onto a point and be able to hold it in the top of your turn. Cheeky plays like that are the things that can really help swing the game back into your direction one way or the other. Phil has his Watchmaster with fights first, I believe.
Judicar.
Judicar. Oh yeah, it's just a Judicar. But yeah, like that unit is very, very important for him, because it allows him to have the ability to say, well, as a melee army, if you want to just send a resource over here, you're probably not taking this away from me. Even if you send two, you might not have enough to deal with both of these units that are gonna fights first, probably peel off one of the units, and then just between the other unit he's charging and that brick, right? Like, it's gonna be very difficult for him to get out OC'd.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But that's because I build those tools into the list, right? So you as a player need to build those tools into a list and identify what it is and how you're gonna play a mission like Purge the Foe. Because every army could do it. It's just some armies are have to have a different game plan to play a mission like Purge. It is unique. It is different. It is very swingy. So you need to be prepared for like what that game plan actually looks like, because it's not the traditional lines of 40k, right? We're not looking to actually deny our opponent on their natural, unless it means that we get hold more or putting ourselves in a position to get hold more. The majority of points we're getting, we're waiting a full round to get if we go first, right? We don't know the actual results of it. So you can't always bank on the fact that you're going to get points, but you have to get value out of every unit. So it's a difficult mission for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, I feel like that should be a pretty comprehensive look at the mission. Whether you've got the extra units and you're going first and the world's just awful, and you're the real underdog. Right. Hopefully this gives you some tools to feel like you can, formulate a game plan, especially, in your list building, right? You need to be looking to do that when you look at the mission pack and you see Purge, right? Hopefully this will give you a better idea of how to go about those games that feel like, oh man, like I'm just playing into knights on Purge the Foe. Like, if you have the resources and the ability to kill the knights, you just have to force the issue. Make them lose those knights early, right? Who cares if they kill a ton of your army, as long as they exposed in ways you wanted to and you were able to deal with them early, right? That's how you're going to win these games. Maybe, right? It's still a swinging mission, as Phil was saying, but that is still generally the best line, at least that I have found, playing this mission as an army with more resources and more trash pieces than average. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully y'all have been enjoying this content. We only got a couple more missions left in this series, and then we'll be moving on to God knows what. I don't think we've decided yet, but we're excited to keep moving forward with y'all. We are basically at the 1 year mark, I think, of when we started the channel. So thank you all for taking this ride with us. It's been a pleasure and just really been fun. And do not forget that victory isn't given, it's forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercrafted. We'll see y'all next time.
See you later, guys.